My blind date was a total disaster, but the woman crying at the next table, I had no idea her tears were tied to the day my whole world fell apart. The voice of Maria, the woman my sister swore was perfect for me, just faded into a buzz of words about her promotion, her new car, her trip to Bali. It was all just noise. My eyes were glued to the woman one table over, whose shoulders were shaking with quiet sobs. She was dressed in a sharp blazer, her hair pulled back just so. She looked like success, but the way her shoulders trembled told a different story. She was a picture of pure sorrow. Look, my own life wasn't exactly a walk in the park. I've been a widower for 5 years, raising the most amazing 7-year-old girl on my own. I work in maintenance, and my bank account is a constant source of stress. I felt like an idiot even being there, spending money on coffee I couldn't really afford, listening to a woman who took one look at my worn jacket and tired eyes and wrote me off. But seeing that crying woman, it pulled at something in me, that instinct to help, to comfort someone. My late wife, Clara, always said it was my best and worst quality. Maria was showing me pictures of her cat. I knew I had a choice. Stay in my own awkward, miserable little world, or step into someone else's. I stood up. It was a choice that would do more than just change my night. It would unravel the past and completely rewrite my future. The morning started like they all do, in a quiet panic. I was measuring coffee grounds, trying not to waste a single one, while the sun was just starting to light up the sky. In the other room, I could hear my daughter, Lily, humming while she got dressed. That sound is what keeps me going. "Daddy, are you wearing your fancy shirt today?" she called out. I looked down at my faded blue button-down. The collar was frayed, the cuffs were thin. It wasn't fancy at all, but it was the cleanest shirt I had. "Yeah, sweet pea. Daddy has a meeting after work," I lied. Calling a blind date a meeting just felt less selfish. Everything I do is for her. She skipped into the kitchen, backpack on, her blonde curls a beautiful mess I'd tried to tame. She tilted her head. "You look handsome, Daddy." My heart just about burst. She has her mother's eyes, so wide and perceptive. "Thanks, sunshine. You look like a genius as usual." She giggled and ate her oatmeal with the raisin smiley face I make for her every morning. I packed her lunch, a peanut butter sandwich, an apple, and a slightly squashed chocolate bar from the vending machine at work. I tucked in a note, like always. "Have a super day. I love you more than all the stars. Daddy." The clock was ticking. I had to drop her off, catch the bus, and punch in at Sterling Tower by 8 a.m. on the dot. If I missed that bus, it was a 30-minute walk, and if I was late, my pay got docked. There was no room for error. We walked out of our old apartment building, my big hand wrapped around her small one. After I kissed her forehead and promised to pick her up right after school, the quiet hit me. It always does. The world just feels empty until I can see her again. Miles away, on the 58th floor of that same building, Isabella Sterling was staring out her office window. The city below looked like a toy set. Her desk was huge and empty except for a laptop and a single face-down picture frame. The silence in her office was heavy, expensive. A silence she'd earned with 16-hour days and a personal life that was basically non-existent. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "One last try, Izzy. His name is Julian, a doctor, very stable. Please just go." A blind date. It was a joke. Her life was board meetings and hostile takeovers. She didn't have time to make small talk with a stranger. What would she even say? That her hobbies included crushing her competition? She picked up the face-down frame. It was a picture of a smiling young man with kind eyes, his arm around a much younger, happier version of herself. The memory was a sharp, physical pain. She put the frame back down, face first. Her assistant, Jessica, slipped in. "Miss Sterling, the board is ready." Isabella stood, her posture instantly becoming rigid, her face setting into the cool mask she wore for the world. "Thank you, Jessica." She walked to the boardroom, the weight of her empire on her shoulders. She was Isabella Sterling, CEO, a name that meant power. But in her own head, she was just Izzy, a woman haunted by a ghost, drowning in success that felt like a prison. She had everything, and she had nothing. The café my sister picked, the Daily Grind, was loud and crowded with people who looked like they didn't have a care in the world. My date, Maria, had been talking for 20 minutes straight, complaining about work, bragging about her personal trainer. I just nodded along, my mind somewhere else, trying to figure out if I had enough money for the glittery colored pencils Lily wanted. At least $5,000 for the backsplash alone. Can you believe it? Wow, I mumbled. $5,000 might as well have been $1 million. That's when I saw her. At a small table by the window, a woman sat alone. That perfect blazer, that severe hairstyle. I'd seen her before, in the lobby of Sterling Tower, getting out of a black car. It was Miss Sterling, my boss, and she was crying. Not loudly, it was quiet, desperate. Her shoulders were shaking and she kept daubing her eyes with a napkin. It was jarring to see this titan of industry, this woman who ran a multi-billion-dollar empire, falling apart in a coffee shop. My heart ached for her. I knew that feeling. Trying so hard to keep it together when you're shattering on the inside. "Excuse me for a moment," I said to Maria. "Where are you going?" she asked, clearly annoyed. But I was already up. I didn't have a plan. What was a maintenance guy going to say to Isabella Sterling? But I couldn't just sit there. I grabbed a clean napkin from the condiment station and walked to her table, my heart pounding in my chest. This was a crazy idea. I stopped beside her. She didn't look up. "Excuse me," I said, my voice barely a whisper. She flinched and quickly wiped her eyes, trying to pull herself together. When she finally looked up, her eyes were red-rimmed and filled with a pain so deep it shocked me. I saw a flicker of recognition. She knew she'd seen my face before. I just held out the napkin. You looked like you could use an extra one." She stared at the napkin, then at me. I expected her to get angry, to tell me to get lost. Instead, a fresh tear rolled down her cheek. "Thank you," she whispered. She took it, her fingers brushing against mine. I should have walked away, but I couldn't move, frozen by the raw grief in her eyes. Are you all right, Miss Sterling?" Her head snapped up at the name. The mask was back. "I'm fine. Do I know you?" Her tone was ice. "I work at the tower," I said, feeling my face get hot. "Maintenance, Leo Vance. I'm sorry to bother you." I started to turn away, my heart sinking. Of course, what did I expect? Then her voice, softer this time, stopped me. "Wait." I turned back. "No, I'm sorry," she said, looking down at her hands twisting the napkin. "That was rude. You were being kind. It's just a difficult day." That was the understatement of the year. I just stood there awkwardly while my own date glared at me from across the room. "I get it," I said quietly. "We all have them." Isabella looked at me again, really looked, with curiosity this time. She saw the tired lines on my face, my frayed collar, and something else. I wasn't judging her. "You really work in my building?" "Yes, ma'am. Night shift mostly. I fix what's broken." The words just came out, but they suddenly felt bigger than a job description. A sad little smile touched her lips. "I have a feeling some things are too broken to be fixed." The words hung between us. What she said next is what really started to break my heart. It's an anniversary," she said, her voice dropping so low I had to lean in. "The anniversary of a mistake. A terrible, irreversible mistake I made 5 years ago. A mistake that cost someone everything." My blood ran cold. 5 years ago. The date slammed into me like a fist. The whole world tilted. 5 years ago was when my life was destroyed. What kind of mistake?" I asked, my voice tight. She stared out the window, lost in a memory. "I was young, arrogant. I was driving too fast, on a business call. It was raining, on a street near here." She swallowed hard. "A man and a woman were crossing. They had the light. I didn't see them until it was too late. The air was sucked out of my lungs. The café, Maria, the smell of coffee, it all disappeared. There was only Isabella Sterling's voice, telling me the story of the worst moment of my life from the other side. The woman, she didn't make it," Isabella whispered, her voice finally cracking. "Her name was Clara, and I killed her." Clara. My wife. The room spun. I stared at the woman who had just confessed to shattering my world, this powerful CEO crying over the ghost that haunted my every second. My blind date was a distant memory. My own small worries vanished. All that was left was this gaping wound, 5 years old, that had just been torn wide open by the last person on earth I ever expected. Her tears weren't for a bad day. Her tears were for my wife. And I had no idea what to do with that. My head was spinning, shock, grief, and a white-hot rage that left me breathless. This woman, in her expensive clothes, was the reason my daughter didn't have a mother, the reason for the hollow ache I woke up with every single day. She was the faceless driver from 5 years ago, and here she was, crying in a coffee shop. "Leo, are you okay?" Isabella asked, her own pain pushed aside when she saw the color drain from my face. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I have," I choked out. "The street, was it Oak Street?" Her eyes widened, first in confusion, then in dawning horror. "Yes, how could you possibly know that?" I collapsed into the chair across from her, my legs giving out. The whole world shrunk to the tiny space between us. I really looked at her then, past the CEO, past the guilt, and I saw a woman who was just as broken by that day as I was. "Clara Vance," I said, my voice raw. "She was my wife." The name landed between us like a bomb. Isabella physically recoiled. All the color drained from her face. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. The impossible, cosmically cruel connection was made. We weren't strangers from different worlds. We were two people who had survived the same shipwreck, washed up on the same shore, never knowing the other was there. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "It can't be. You work for me." The sheer absurdity of it was too much. "I fix what's broken," I repeated, the words now tasting like bitter iron. But I couldn't fix this. I couldn't fix her. Now I was crying, hot, unstoppable tears. The grief I'd packed down for 5 years for Lily's sake was pouring out of me. And across the table, Isabella Sterling, the woman I should have hated with every fiber of my being, was weeping with me. Across the room, Maria stood up, threw a $10 bill on the table, and stormed out, giving me a look of pure disgust. I'd barely noticed. My terrible blind date was now the most insignificant event of my life. "I went to the police," Isabella sobbed. "I told them. They called it a tragic accident. The weather, the low visibility. My lawyers, they handled it. But it never went away. Not for me." "It didn't go away for me either," I said. "I have a daughter, Lily. She was 2. She doesn't remember her mother's face." The mention of Lily seemed to shatter her completely. She buried her face in her hands. "Oh God, a child. I didn't know. They never told me there was a child." We sat there in that noisy café, two people from opposite ends of the universe, tied together by one horrible moment. The anger in my chest began to curdle into something more complicated. I didn't see a monster. I saw a person drowning in remorse. "Every year, on this day," she continued, her voice muffled, "I come here, to this neighborhood. It's like a penance, to be close to the life I destroyed. And every year on this day," I said softly, "I take my daughter to the park, and we let a balloon go for her mother. I tell her that Mommy is a star in the sky watching her." We looked at each other. For 5 years, just miles apart, we had been mourning the same person on the same day. Slowly, I reached across the table and put my hand on hers. She flinched, then leaned into the touch like it was a lifeline. It was an act of forgiveness I didn't know I was capable of. In that moment, she wasn't my boss, and I wasn't the husband she'd wronged. We were just two people, lost in the same ocean of grief, clinging to the same piece of wreckage. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice small and lost. I took a deep breath, the first real breath I'd taken in 5 years. The anger was gone, the shock was fading, and in its place was a strange, fragile clarity. I don't know, I said honestly, but we don't do it alone anymore. We sat there for a long time, not saying a word, while the world buzzed around us. When we finally left, the sun was setting. We walked out of the cafe together, leaving the pieces of our old lives behind. The future didn't feel like a painful echo of the past anymore. It felt like a blank page. The story of Leo, the poor single dad, and Isabella, the rich CEO, was over. A new story about two people bound by tragedy and a fragile hope for healing was just beginning. A few weeks later, I was in the park watching Lily fly a kite. It danced against the blue sky, and her laughter was the only music that mattered. "Higher, Daddy, higher," she yelled. I smiled, letting out more string. Someone came and stood beside me. It was Isabella, in jeans and a sweater, holding a small bouquet of white lilies. "I hope this is okay," she said quietly. "I brought these for Clara." I took them, my throat tight. She would have loved them. They were her favorite. Isabella watched Lily for a moment. "She's beautiful, Leo." "She has her mother's laugh," I said. Lily saw Isabella and ran over to us, stopping right in front of her. "Are you Daddy's new friend?" asked Lily. Isabella knelt to her level. "I am," she said gently. "My name is Izzy. It's very nice to meet you, Lily." Lily beamed. "Do you want to help me fly my kite?" Isabella looked at me, her eyes asking for permission. I nodded. She took Lily's hand and they ran across the grass together, their laughter mixing in the air. I watched them, two of the most important people in my life, brought together by the worst thing that ever happened to me, now starting something new. Something that felt like grace. Something that felt like a family.